Do we want to? Are we just going to call it Welsh Wednesdays?
Yeah, is Welsh Wednesdays good?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nice and easy, isn't it? Yeah. How do you say it?
Annibyniaeth.
Annibyniaeth.
Try and remember Annie, Bunny,
Yeah.
Yaeth.
Annibyniaeth.
Well,
Annibyniaeth.
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 Okay, fine, got that.
Annibyniaeth.
That's in. That's in. Do you want to do the intro or shall I?
Yeah, you do it, Kiri, because I'm having a Bailey's because I'm nervous, and then I'll be all right.
Okay. Right, tree. I'm going. Welcome to what we're calling Welsh Wednesdays. I'm Kiri Pritchard Mclean. I'm a stand-up comedian. Katie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Katie Gill Williams, and I've got a bridal shop in Wales.
Great. And the thing that we share in common, other than both being excellent and having a selfie ring blasting off the ears into our faces, is that we are both Welsh learners. So I am from Wales, and Katie, you're from England originally, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm from just out in between Liverpool and Manchester, but I've lived here, 9 years now.
Yeah. And it's such a good Welsh learner, and I've watched Katie's stuff for ages, so I thought it'd be really fun because I'm like redoubling my efforts to learn Welsh if we did something together. So we come up with this thing, Welsh Wednesdays, very catchy. If you don't like the title, it's Katie's idea. We're gonna chat about something kind of Welsh related, or that's that we're feeling, or that's happening to us as women living in Wales. And then we're going to sort of, at the end, this is what I'm so scared about, we're going to sort of recap and do like a minute in Welsh trying to explain our feelings about it.
It's really nice to have someone to chat with, and I think we agreed, I hope you don't mind me saying, that we are maybe equally as shit.
I think you're way better than me. There's loads that you're saying that, right, I don't know what that word is, and I can't put sentences together. I can just list words that I know, and sometimes it's a sentence.
Ask me a question and I just completely just rabbit in the headlights, just don't know. Rabbit in the rain.
That's what we should have called it, but that sounds definitely like something that we should have an OnlyFans account for. When I speak Welsh, right, I'm going to explain this to my tutor. I can't think in sentences. Do you know in Wallace and Gromit where he's on the front of that train and he's putting train tracks in front of him? And Gromit's that's how I speak Welsh. So I'm like word, and then I'll get stuck and be like, I don't know the word for that. So like I can never think a whole sentence. Maybe it's because of my ADD as well. But it's always like I'm just keeping up with a word in front of me, and I can't really think in like big ideas. But yeah. You picked first, and you've gone for the uncontroversial subject of Welsh independence, isn't that right?
So I don't know why I picked it, but I think it's well, let's just dive straight in because why not? Maybe it's quite like vogue at the moment, isn't it? But important, like that's not to sell it down. So I thought, yeah, we'll just start with that. I was speaking to my boss earlier, and I was like, so Sean, can you just tell me about when Wales was last independent? And he just reeled off the date like no one's business. He's like, yes, 1812. No, 1232. I've written it down. 1232. And I was like, shit, it was like 1,000 years ago. So I've kind of found that fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time.
So Yes Cymru are an organisation that aren't affiliated to any political party. They just want independence for Wales. So it's a cross-party organisation. I'm trying to think of something similar. A bit like the Women's Equality Party isn't affiliated with any particular party. It's just pushing forward the agenda of things to do that affect women. So Yes Cymru has been gaining followers, and it's got to be over 16,000 now.
Like, to give a bit of context about the way I operate, like politically, or like I'm quite reactive, so something can happen and I'll just be like, right, fuck it, that's it. So like years ago I organised this protest in Bangor because on Sunday night Donald Trump had banned the Muslim travel ban, and I was like, a Muslim doctor helped me give birth to my daughter, and like just got online, created this thing. And then loads of people came. It was amazing. And then the same thing happened with Yes Cymru, where I was like, right, that's disgraceful with all this Westminster kind of the kids pack lunches and stuff like that. So that was kind of my impetus. But then I think I probably need to delve into it a bit more. So I react and then I'm like, okay, I'm involved. So probably should find out what I've just signed up to, really.
Yeah. I think Wales needs to have confidence in itself as a country. That's something I absolutely believe in. I think independence would be a move towards that. It's a vote of confidence in yourself. And I can also see the political argument for it in that we have never ever voted for a Conservative majority government, but we largely have always had a Conservative majority government making decisions for this country. Yes, we've got devolved powers, but like lots of things still defer to Westminster, like the vaccine rollout and things like that. And yet, especially during everything that's happened with COVID, I think that the Welsh government have clearly acted with the best interest of the people in Wales, even though it's a bit of a minefield. And whereas I think Westminster have sold stuff to their mates. and I'm not saying there's no corruption in Wales, because I live on Ynys Môn and I'm well aware of the planning committee. I'm not saying there's no corruption, but I'm saying that it's more of an issue, and they're about to probably redraw the boundaries, which means that Wales will, I think, lose about 8 constituency seats. Which, and so that's complicated again because our First Minister, Mark Drakeford, is Labour, which is unionist, because also they've already lost Scotland. They can't really afford to lose probably 8 seats in Wales as well. It just further stacks it in the advantage of the Conservatives forever ruling Wales. So that's why I think it could be potentially a move towards self-determination politically would be positive. I think it's very interesting that it's sort of tied up in people are making a pro-Remain case. The statistics are, if you voted Remain or are a Welsh speaker, you are far more likely to be pro-independence. I think it's triple the amount of in terms of Welsh speakers versus non-Welsh speakers. And if you vote Conservative or the Brexit Party, you are much, much more in favour of the UK being a union. So I think that's really interesting. And I think that is that going to be the undoing of some of the movement? Is that some people will be like, I want to be independent, but I don't want to be part of Europe? Or will it be there's people who are like, we want to be back in Europe and independence is our easiest way to it? And will that create a fractious relationship? And the other thing I always think about is I want it to be a positive movement. I'm not saying I don't think it is, but I want it to be a movement that's inclusive. I don't want there to be gatekeepers about what is Welsh and what isn't, whether you speak the language, what colour you are, where people think you're from, whether you speak with like me, an English accent, but you are Welsh. I hate all that stuff, and that nationalist behaviour is the reason my first language Welsh father never wanted us to speak Welsh, because he associated that behaviour with the people who were very passionate about the Welsh language, which is unfair and not correct of him. But that's not the Wales I love. The Wales I love is inclusive and everyone's welcome.
Because there's an interesting point about if you vote Labour, you could never be a part of Yes Cymru. But also, I voted Labour, so I'm also like, well, yes, I can, and you won't tell me that I can't. But then sometimes I'd never admit that, and I think I don't want it to be a movement where you can't fully be honest about, what you believe or what you align with, really. And as well, sometimes as an English person, I do say this really cautiously because it's mostly cefnogi supportive. I have had, sometimes there's been a little bit of sentiment where I'm like, oh gosh, that really jars with me, especially in lockdown, this situation, there's almost been like, oh, the English are coming over here. And yes, I think, people have their own views about how they're going to take restrictions and stuff. But for me, I'm sometimes like, oh, that's, they're talking about my family. I mean, I'm English, do you mean me? Do you mean, I don't know. But then I don't want to be too sensitive because the English have been dicks for so many years that you don't want to feel like another bloody colonialist. Well, I'm offended actually.
Part of the massive problem with the industry of Ynys Môn is that it's tourist based, which is if you get a recession, which by the way is just around the corner if we're not already in one, people don't go out for dinner, they don't go out for holidays, those things shut down, which means that we're not recession proof if we have a service based economy. So I worry about the demographic, and the demographic that's voting, because like since coming back to Ynys Môn, there used to be, it was never amazing, that's one of the reasons I moved to England, but like there used to be stuff for young people, and now there's nothing. It's so, I don't know if you're a young person here, I don't know where you get inspired. And we have a huge problem with talent drain as well, moving out of the country, and I think that's going to get worse and worse. And if we're not voting for a government that doesn't believe in like funding the arts and things like that, like, you know, you don't get people like me coming from Anglesey if we don't have nowhere to practice doing drama and find out that we do stand-up comedy. Not that I'm like, guys, I'm the poster girl for success.
Nationalism's not necessarily bad, it's just a bit of a dirty word, isn't it? Like,
yeah, because normally when you see it, there's like someone telling someone else to go back home and you're like, is it going to kick off? So yeah, I think that we need to you know, and it's you know, all the other side of it, when my dad was growing up, is burning English holiday homes down, and it's all that kind of stuff. That my mum, when she first moved to North Wales, had a guy pull a gun out on her, a farmer, because he was like trespassing, poaching on her land that she owned, and then he was like, go back home, you size, and pulled a gun. So like that is in living memory. So which is one of the many reasons why my father is like hates the idea of nationalism, because that's what he thinks nationalism is. My worry is not about middle class people like me. I'll be fine whatever happens. It's about the people I went to school with.
Going under.
Yeah, but like there's huge amounts of rural poverty, like especially in North Wales, huge amounts, and it's invisible because people think you're only poor if you live on a council estate. That's like, and like there are council estates in North Wales, but like people think if you're close to a mountain and a sea, it's not the same thing. And of course it is. It means there are far fewer jobs because there's like there's not the industry there to support it. We should be going for like, you know, you have like the champagne, it can only come from champagne. Like there's so much stuff in Wales food wise that should be going for that. But yeah, but money is the thing that worries me, because I think it'll always be the thing, the people at the bottom who suffer, and I wouldn't want independence to make us poorer, because it will be the people who have got nothing to lose anyway who are the ones who are losing first. I think there was some polling done in November of 2020, and support for independence is the highest it has ever been, by like several like tens of percent. So it is gathering, and you would probably only need to convince the don't knows. You wouldn't need to necessarily convince anyone from the other side to tip it over in a referendum.
So Henry VIII was involved with all like making Wales part of England and stuff. So that was a real turning point. I'm like, that man has been involved in so much shit. So part of it is just to be like, yeah, and to you, Henry VIII, I'm fed up with him. Like, he just crops up at so many different points in history, and I'm just like, he's such a troublemaker.
I love that other people, if they had a problem with Henry VIII, would go and see like Six the musical, or like listen to it and go for a run. But you're like, I'm joining the Welsh independence movement, actually. So in your face, Henry VIII.
Being an English person as well, like maybe I'm a bit like apologetic, and I don't know, sometimes I'm really defensive, and like, we're not all like that, you know, like honestly. I think even if sometimes I think of the north of England, they, you know, you could really boil it down, like Liverpool would be like, I'm not part of Westminster and that doesn't represent me, because there's that side of it, like these people, and I think increasingly we're seeing it more and more now, they're just another planet sometimes, just like the lives they lead just aren't our lives. When Scotland had the referendum, I can't remember how long ago that was, I wasn't for it, you know.
Oh, really?
I was a bit romantic about the United Kingdom. I was a bit like, I love Scotland, like don't. So there's a very romantic notion as well, isn't there, like United Kingdom, and sometimes I think if I was living in England, like, please don't leave us.
Yeah.
So
the people that I don't identify with, who I think vote the Conservatives in, whenever I see the conversation about Scottish or Welsh independence, they don't think, why would people want that? They go, oh, go and piss off then, like, we don't need you. And they're like, okay, well, what a great way to make us stay. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's such animosity to the idea that we wouldn't want to be part of a union. What I don't want is for Northern Ireland to become part of Ireland again, like, you know, to there to be an island, a united Ireland. Scotland to go independent and then Wales to be stuck with England, because it wouldn't, like, I feel like it might be like a once in a lifetime thing, like if
Yeah.
it's going to happen, because I just think that Wales easily has its confidence knocked as a nation and maybe even as individuals. And like this whole thing of like, we dare to dream. And I think it'll be really similar to Scotland in that there'll be the people who want it will be full of hope and be really vocal, and it'll run a positive campaign, but there'll be lots of like shy votes who don't speak up, who swing it the other way.
I do think there's a mentality of it just kind of, yeah, there's like a belittling, and I think that does seep down through just, we're talking like over 1,000 years of oppression, and that stuff doesn't just leave and get undone quickly. But like there's almost like a gratefulness, thank you for learning our language, and that makes me a bit uneasy. It's obviously a very nice, polite thing they're saying, but I'm just like, it's just, you'd move somewhere else, you'd learn the language, wouldn't you? So
the people who have like ruined the coast of Spain, they're not like, they don't get there and go, right, first things first, I'm just going to immerse myself in the language. They don't speak it. They expect everyone else to change. We're really bad in the UK for not being bilingual and also not realizing how limiting that is. It should be normal that everyone's bilingual in at least something else, but that's not always the case, because we're so spoiled because most nations speak English.
I am struggling with Welsh. It's been eight years. So the day after I moved to Wales, I'd been teaching in Cornwall for years. So Cornwall has a yes, Kerno independence push as well. So I was teaching there, and then I came to Wales, and like literally the next day I went to my first class. So I was like, but my ex-boyfriend was from Llanfairpwll. So when I was in college in Liverpool, I used to come over to Wales quite a lot when I was 17, and I loved it.
Oh, that's so nice.
So, yeah, and then I married his mate. You've said enough Welsh words.
No, probably not. What's referendum? That's a good word.
Oh God, I'll have to put the glass. I don't know. Ddim yn gwybod. So national is genodlaethol, and nationalism, I think, is genodlaetholondeb. Genodlaetholondeb, I think. Well, do you know
that one? Feels a little tricky. Okay, felly dwi'n meddwl Annibyniaeth. Yeah, Annibyniaeth. Yn ddiddorol iawn i fi. Ond fi fi calon dweud barod, mynd, rwan. Ond fi pen dweud, dwi ddim yn gwybod. Achos dwi'n poeni am pobl twad, drwan? Be di gair am po?
O po ddim rata?
Oh.
Dwi'n meddwl rata is cheap.
Yeah, dwi'n poeni am pobl twad yn y gogledd a'r pobl pwy sy'n byw yn y gwlad, countryside.
Kevin Gwlad, is that back country?
Yeah, yn y Kevin Gwlad. And dwi poeni arian mynd yn y de.
Dwi'n deall, I understand.
Yeah.
That
was a minute and a half, by the way. That was
I was really trying not to do. I've got such a patronising little face sometimes when I'm like, well, wyt ti isio fi I trio I translate be nes ti yn deud, what you just said. Do you want me to do that or not?
Oh, yeah, Diane, yeah.
So I think you said, my heart is like go for it, ready. My head, ddim yn gwybod, I don't know. I worry, poeni, about people who are cheap, poor.
Yeah.
About people who are poor, in places like the countryside or lle arall? Where else did you say?
Gogledd.
Oh, Gogledd, in the north, and the money, arian, will go straight to the south. And I know what you mean. It's happening already, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what you just said.
Yeah. So that's what I tried to say. The frustration is I talk for a living and I'm so confident that I can express myself and that I'm fairly eloquent in English. And I've always been articulate enough to express how I'm feeling and not get frustrated. And then I suddenly move to this language where it's like I have to speak like I'm in George Orwell, and it's like I feel not good. And it's because I don't know what the word for bad or ill is. Well, I do. You just immediately, it feels like your wings are clipped. And that's where the frustration comes from.
I love that your reference was Orwell, and I just think of Yoda, because like, be dwi'n feddwl amdan annibyniaeth ydy, mae'n y syniad yn da, ond mi fydden nhw yn angen mwy I deud pobl amdan y benefits, achos o'r hyn o bryd, mae nhw'n siarad llawer amdan passion a fy nghalon, ond ddim yn siarad amdan practical. Be'r arall? Ddim yn gwybod really. Be'r arall? Mae'n anodd tydi. It's hard. Dwi'n meddwl mae'n campaign dilyn efo galon, dim ond un I ti, really. Wedi gorffen.
Okay, I didn't understand the last bit, but that's my bad Welsh. So I think you said, what I think about independence is it's a good idea.
Yeah.
What was the word for idea?
Syniad,
yeah. But you said we need more people to talk about the benefits, because at the moment people are talking with passion about it, but not talking about like how it will get better. And then you went, what else? A few times. And then I think you started talking about it being from the heart, and then you sort of went what you said really, I think, or
that's what I said.
Yeah, okay.
Try to. Oh no, it's not yr un peth, the same thing. Yr un peth, the same thing. Like you. No, it is really, honestly, it's so nice, like, to ymarfer. It makes such a difference.
You know what my favourite thing is when I go into a shop and I'll sort of, they go, oh, ti isio bag? And I'll be like, oh, dim diolch. And then they'll sort of they'll say something in Welsh, and I'll give like a little snippet back in Welsh, and I'll be like, ta-ra rwan, and leave, and I'll be like, I got out of the whole shop with them thinking that I was Welsh. It's like, it feels like I'm pulling a bank heist. Or, you know, when you give someone a £5 and they give you a £10 back in your change because they think it was a 20, and you're like, I've just got to get out the shop. That's how I feel when I get away with speaking Welsh.
Yeah, do you not buzz off yourself when you get in full flow Welsh?
I'll let you know when it happens. Well, this has been fun. Right, I'm going to stop the recording.